Buenos dias, familia. Israel Torres here with Caribbean American Passport News and, of course, Cat Village Studios, too. And for the viewers who may not know you, please introduce yourself and tell us what inspired you to run for Orange County Mayor after serving as both County Commissioner and Clerk of Courts.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to join you on this platform. I am Tiffany Moore Russell, and I am running for Orange County Mayor. And I decided to run for office actually for my children. I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old son. And as I see where we're going as a community, I want to make sure that I was leading where we would have a community they can come return to with thriving economy, jobs, affordable housing, where they would want to choose Orange County as their home of choice. And so that's really why I'm running. To be able to merge my experience as a commissioner and as a constitutional officer to make the transformative change we need at the mayor's office. So that's why I'm running.
Hey, perfectly worded. Listen, throughout your career, you've held several historic leadership positions in Orange County. How have those experiences prepared you to lead one of Florida's fastest growing counties?
So I will say, it's great to break barriers and make history, but it's also what you do when it comes to results and being able to deliver for the people. And so I think as a commissioner, I learned the policy and the budget process at the county, how to work with staff from the different departments, as well as working with the legislature to get state or federal funding to make sure we can have projects such as getting infrastructure work for Little Egypt community, or making sure we can get funding to build the first official cricket field in Central Florida, right? So I learned that as a commissioner, the legislative process, as well as how to get funding to provide those services for the citizens. But where I kind of stretched my leadership experience is when I became the clerk, because as the clerk, I now had to make sure I'm concerned about how I provide services to citizens who want to access our court system, while also making sure I'm concerned with how my employees are living, wages, how they're making a living wage. And so being the clerk, I had to go from $12 to $17 an hour. And that took years of working with the legislature to increase our funding and come up with a strategic plan to increase our starting pay. When I started as the clerk, the starting pay was $12 an hour, and today it's $17.25. But it wasn't just about increasing starting pay, but it's also increasing the pay for everybody else so we can avoid compression issues. And so learning how to be an executive, learning how to manage during COVID, how do we, when the courthouse is closed, but we're still an essential service to the community because people have to still access their court system. All of that has positioned me to now be prepared to be the next Orange County mayor, because it's managing a complex budget, but also making sure we can provide services to you, the citizens. When you ask for more jobs or more training opportunities for the next generation, we're going to need an experienced mayor who knows how to provide those services, but also making sure we can manage those budgets to be able to do that appropriately. And so I think those different roles have positioned me in this perfect time to be able to be the next Orange County mayor.
Affordable housing continues to be one of the biggest concerns for Orange County residents. What specific steps would you or your administration take to make housing more attainable for working families, at least?
Gotcha. So I want to just say this as I'm speaking to your audience. This affordability crisis, it touches everybody in Central Florida, right? Even those, for example, I purchased my current home in 2020. If I was to sell my home today, I would not be able to purchase it back. So that's everybody, whether it's those who are the unhoused or those who are trying to rent or purchase a home. We are pricing ourselves out of living in the county where we work. And so one of the things I would focus on first is internally, how do we make some changes when it comes to the building department and the permitting department, making it more so that it's more efficient. And we're working with those who want to build because we need more supply. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that our internal building department is working with the private sector to make sure we can provide to that supply. But looking for more solutions when it comes to helping with rental assistance, making sure people can stay in their rental communities or renting in this area. Those are different solutions we can do, because it's not just purchasing a home, it's also renting, being able to afford to live here and sustain your housing and making sure people can have. Then it leads to economic prosperity. People want jobs that can pay them good wages that match with the living wage here in Central Florida. So you heard me mention the clerk's office, they make $17 an hour, and we're still not where we need to be. In Central Florida, the living wage is more than $20 an hour.
I don't know how you lived off of that.
Right? But because most people have to have 2 to 3 jobs, or they're living in Lake County, Seminole County, or Osceola County. And so we have to, and it's going to take time. It's different solutions, looking at ways to increase wages, but also make sure the employees at Orange County are also making a decent income so they can afford to live here as well. And so I will say this, I just listed a few solutions. There are a whole lot of solutions, but I think the key is having a mayor who can work with both the private community, the private sector who wants to provide that housing, as well as those organizations that advocate and really lobby for our citizens to have affordable housing. It's working with everybody to come up with a solution to move Orange County forward. And so that would be my approach to addressing it. And Orange County I commend them at passing Vision 2050. Unfortunately, the legislature stalled it. And so I will looking at Vision 2050, see what we can do right away. That's not going to find ourselves in court, right? And so looking for different solutions, working with everybody to move us forward as a community.
Hey, your campaign emphasizes smart growth and equitable development. How can Orange County continue to grow while preserving neighborhoods, protecting natural resources, and maintaining the quality of life?
So that's a whole lot in that question, right? It's a lot. And what I would say is, I live in one of those fast growing communities, and I joke to people is because the houses came before the infrastructure. Right, and many people who know me, they call me and we're on the phone. I'm talking on my way home. As soon as I get a certain point from my house, I lose cell phone service. And my friend said, "Oh, she must be close to home because her cell phone is going out." And that speaks to we're outpacing infrastructure. We're growing too fast, and it's not smart growth. And so I'm going to champion infill redevelopment, making sure we can reinvest in our inner communities. I call them our legacy communities. That's the Holden Heights, the Pine Hills, the Lockhart, our inner communities. How do we reinvest in those neighborhoods to revive them, make people want to make them attractive to live there before we start encroaching into what we consider our rural boundaries, and which is causing more sprawl because we continue to go out because it's fresh and new and shiny. And so for me, I'm a champion for infill redevelopment. That does cost more because we have to address infrastructure and really developing those partners who want to reinvest in our inner community. But that's one way, as well as making sure we have policies in place to protect our natural resources, our water supply, making sure we have more parks and places, because all that also responds to quality of life. People want, what the average citizen wants is a safe neighborhood, decent jobs, and a place to raise their family.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's as simple as that, and that hasn't changed no matter who's going to be the mayor or the governor or the president. That's what people want every day. And so making sure we have solutions in place to make sure we can provide those initiatives for our citizens.
Well, with all this growth, my next question is going to be about transportation.
Yes.
Transportation and traffic congestion affect residents across the county every day, including me. What are your priorities for improving mobility and preparing Orange County's infrastructure for the growth process?
So my priority is to go back and get to the drawing board. We've already studied. We have a lot of studies in Orange County on what we need to address transportation. It's now sitting in a room to figure out what we can do and come up with a phased plan to be able to start achieve those initiatives, those solutions, right? Because we have existing roadways we need to improve. We have some parts of our county that is below stormwater level service, and so they flood when we get a bad storm, right? And then we need to address multimodal, right? Sunrail, how do we get Sunrail to be running on a regular basis on the weekend so we can leverage that investment from years ago, as well as what happens, how do we move people? We just saw an article in OBJ that we lost a major citywide convention because of transportation on I-Drive. How do we move our visitors, our residents, and our family members? And so our link system, how we make it more very smart and strategic and moving people, because we know effective public transportation opens up access. And so working with existing agencies, from Metro Plan to the Links Board to Central Florida Express, there are so many existing boards that address different facets of transportation, making sure we're all in the room to talk about the overall plan for moving our transportation forward. Now, ultimately, we do need to address a transportation tax of some sort. We do need a dedicated funding source to be able to pay for some of the initiatives that we're going to need to move us forward for the next 50 years.
Small businesses are a major driver of the local economy around here. What initiatives would you implement to help entrepreneurs start, grow, and actually succeed in Orange County?
Well, the first thing is to support our existing entities that we have in place. The National Entrepreneur Center, we have a lot of chambers, the Haitian Chamber, the African American Chamber, all of these different chambers already in place to support our many different small businesses. So the first thing is to support those entities that provide those existing services. There's no need for us to reinvent the wheel at the county. Partner with those existing agencies to provide access to capital, training opportunities, marketing opportunities. Where are there gaps for them so they can either start a business grow their business or even sustain their business, right? What is that plan? What does that look like? So that's the first thing. The second thing is creating opportunities within Orange County. Orange County, procures a lot of contracts and business with a lot of businesses, right? Providing services from concession at the convention center to cleaning, janitorial services or security services. There are so many contracts the county does procure with individuals. And one of my strategies is to break up those opportunities into smaller projects to give that small business an opportunity to compete. So I'll give an example. We have multiple community centers in this county. We don't have to have one contract for janitorial services. We can divide that up by sectors or by buildings. And so now you have an opportunity to compete for one project.
Oh,
and then if you do well, now you can grow your business, and now you go for 2 or 3. And I think that is what we have to focus on, is how the county can create opportunity and wealth even just from doing business with the county.
That made a lot of sense just listening to it. As clerk of court, you expanded public services such as the Self-Help Center, Operation Greenlight, and community outreach programs. How would you bring that same focus on accessibility and customer service to the mayor's office?
Gotcha. So I think the first thing is, when I was running for office for clerk and when I was elected, I created my transition team, and I listened to the citizens. I think part of the great thing about campaigning is going to forums and knocking on doors, and you're hearing from voters. And so I think the key is when you hear from voters, then you go back into your office and figure out where are there opportunities to create more accountability, transparency, and accessibility, and then come up with initiatives to move those forward. So you mentioned the Self-Help Center. I was a former lawyer for legal services. So I actually represented families who were trying to avoid eviction. And one of the things I noticed is that there's a gap. Is people who are below federal poverty guidelines, they get free legal assistance. But if you are above that and you don't have means, you have no legal access. And so, but they still have questions, right? They still have things to be addressed. So I would take that same approach to learning out what are the issues that are happening in the county and how can we be more accessible and transparent to the citizens. So I'll give an example. I was in Pine Hills. I think you were there at the forum. And people, one of the main questions about this house in Pine Hills that becomes a yard, is a garage sale. And they've constantly been in front of the code enforcement magistrate, and they continue to get a pass. Well, one thing I want to create is timeliness standards for code enforcement. How long does it take for us to address your code enforcement complaints? How long does it take for this case to last in the process? And are we actually resolving these complaints that are violating our code? I think taking what we know are pain points for the citizens and taking it to being more transparent for citizens to see that we're making a difference. And so I'll take that same approach to the county, increasing access to our neighborhood services. How do we help our neighborhoods improve their communities? All those things I think are great translatable services I'll be able to take from the clerk's office to apply to the mayor's office.
My next question, it's actually my favorite one due to the fact that you mentioned it earlier, and I'm a father. So
Okay.
as a father, I spend most of my time in these parks, especially camping, like, Clark Corner Horse Park, Magnolia, Barnett Park, all these amazing parks that we actually have around here, right? Your campaign actually highlights the importance of the parks and recreation and youth programs and the arts. Why do you believe these investments are essential to building a stronger community?
Because that's what people want when it comes to quality of life. People want to go to work, but what happens on the weekend? People, if you look to see those communities that have vibrant weekend activities, Winter Gardens Farmers Market, Winter Park, people like to be outside. We're known because of our weather, and we want to be able to leverage that and make it's an attractive community. And so, but parks creates a quality of life for families, which you heard me mention earlier about getting the first cricket field.
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
it's important for us to also make sure our recreational programs are ever evolving as our community continues to evolve. Like now, when I was a commissioner, I'd never heard of pickleball. Now we got pickleball, right?
Yeah.
Think about it, right? So we are continually have to be able to evolve and make sure we're providing services to today's demands, right? So, but it all impacts, you look for youth programs. I have a 14-year-old, have a 17-year-old, my 17-year-old playing Little League Baseball. All of that helps enhance our community. It creates a sense of community and provides a great quality of life. It's not just about, it is jobs, it is housing, it is transportation, but it is also our arts and our culture and embracing the diversity of who we are as a community. And I think it makes us a holistic community, right? When you want to be a city of choice, we're competing with the Miamis, the Austins, the Atlantas, and it's not just jobs, it's also what is happening on the weekends and at night, right? It's that what makes you a more diverse community and more attractive to the everyday citizen.
Well, as a parent, I love the fact that, like I said, most of these parks do have so much to do,
Hmm.
and it's mostly for free, and if not, there's amazing events that I take advantage of and take my children to, of course. But that to me, that's definitely a priority because people don't understand that even though those memories and everything build the community,
Yeah.
Make it feel
And
safer
you
and
mentioned
attract
you mentioned it's free. Nothing
people.
is free.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? So because citizens pay through property taxes,
right,
right?
you're
They've
right, you're right.
said, and I think our citizens have said we value recreation, we
Yes.
value community, we value a sense of being with our families in our parks, and which is why we want to invest in them, which is why we've chosen to invest in the Barnett Parks or the Silver Star Gym, all those different activities, because it keeps our youth busy. It keeps our communities healthy because we're outside. I love to see when men are playing basketball in Barnett Park or
Yes.
people using the baseball fields, right? All of that, when we speak to quality of life, that's the picture of quality of life. It is healthy families, healthy communities. All of that makes it what makes Orange County great.
Well, with all that being said, managing a growing county also means balancing budgets
Yep.
responsibly, right? So, how would you ensure Orange County continues to provide high quality services while being a good steward of taxpayer dollars we were just talking about?
Yeah, well, that's what we're elected to do, right? And so when I became the clerk of court, actually I was faced to have to cut my budget 3 times in 1 year. And not once did I tell the customers I was going to close my branches. I'm going to lay off people. Sometimes when you're forced to cut your budget, it makes you go back and ideate and come up with new ways to find savings. And so because of that, I went to my senior staff members and said, hey, I don't want to lay off anybody, and I don't want to furlough days or go to the court to ask, can I close on certain days? How do I do this? And they went back and said, okay, let's go to a less paper environment. Let's cut back on these types of initiatives because we can be more efficient with that. And so I think as moving, and again, the clerk is a much smaller budget it's 40 million compared to billions of dollars in Orange County, biggest scale. But I think it's the same philosophy, right? It's looking for ways to provide services, but also looking for ways to be efficient and be more innovative in how we provide services that can also see a cost savings and making sure we can still deliver quality services, but also not taxing citizens, right? I mentioned code enforcement earlier. Code enforcement exists for a reason. We have policies in place. We've established that you will not do certain things. So then we want to make sure that code enforcement is working for citizens because it impacts your tax base, your quality of your home when your neighborhood has become a blighted neighborhood and code enforcement's not doing their job, right? And so I think that is what it's making sure you balance that, hold your department heads accountable, that they're watching their spending and that his spending makes sense. We're seeing a return on that investment for citizens and finding ways, again, challenging them to be innovative and how do we modernize services before we start asking for more money from citizens.
Being from this county, Orange County is one of the most diverse communities in Florida, and I love it. How would your administration ensure every resident from urban neighborhoods to suburban and rural communities has a voice still in the county government?
Awesome. So, the good thing is we're now about to move to 8 commissioners. So each neck or corner of this county will have a commissioner. We're going to go to 8 district commissioners. And so, I would hope that the commissioners would do their job, which they've been elected to represent those citizens. But in my office, I plan to make sure I redesign what my, engagement department looks like to make sure that we are acknowledging how do we serve, whether it's our senior population, certain parts of our community, our rural versus our urban, so we can hear even our business community. All of those different segments of our society want to have access and want to be engaging with their local elected officials. So I think how I organize my senior team, how the manager's cabinet will make an importance. And then also, I want to be more external in my engagement, so more town halls, more focused meetings in the community, and not because I'm looking for a tax or not because I'm looking for a vote. But let's talk about how we're doing. I also want some transparency on our website so people can see how projects are moving along, how can they engage with with their county government. And so those are different tools that we will put in place to create more engagement so that people can feel like they have access to their mayor's office as well as a place for them to share their concerns.
Finally, what message would you like to leave the residents of Orange County, all the voters? And why do you believe you're the right person to serve us as the county's next mayor?
All right, so what I want you all to learn is you're going to hear throughout this entire campaign, there are people in this race who've all been elected. So we've been elected by somebody, right, to serve in different capacities. But we've also, you're going to hear that we have an affordability issue, housing, transportation. You're going to hear that a lot. And what I want your listeners to understand is we need a proven leader who has proven they can deliver the results. Because it is about balancing a budget. It is about taking a vision and matching it with reality. It is about how do you take this vision and put it into a plan that you can actually execute, right? We oftentimes like to have task force and we like to study, but we never take it to actuals, right? We vision, but we don't make it into reality. And so I think the key is making sure we can elect someone who knows this county, who's been here serving this county, trying to bring about transformative change for the voters and for the residents of Orange County. And I think that's what makes me most qualified. I understand the county as a former commissioner, so I understand the policy side of Orange County government. But as a constitutional officer, I've ran an executive office. I've managed a budget, and also in the clerk capacity, I served as our budget chair for our statewide association. And so I managed a $500 million budget, making sure I can allocate funding for all 67 clerks. And so I bring to you experience of someone who has managed complicated budgets, but who's also listened to your needs and concerns and provided services to you. Our access to justice legal forums here at the clerk's office, where you can get information about child support or even a payment plan to get your licenses back. I have tried to serve this community to address the needs that you've said you're looking for from their local elected officials. And so I think that's why I'm the most qualified, because I'm prepared on day one to be your Orange County mayor.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure from us here at Cap Village Studios, Caribbean American Passport News. We will be following you. I am not trying to take up all your time because I know you're on the campaign trail right now. I know we will see you tomorrow on the Pine Hills Hob Nob.
Yes, you will. Absolutely.
Have a blessed day.
All right. Thank you.